do 2 treatments in one lesson. Number 1 is the hot and cold foot bath, and the other one is going to be the castor oil pack. Now let's begin with the hot and cold foot bath. I have seen people's feet turn pink and warm when they started out cold and blue, just by this simple treatment and doing it for 10 minutes at a time. Now I like this treatment because it can be done in less than 20 minutes. Now we have the wet sheet pack and the fomentations, which we know take a little bit longer. But this one will only take from start to finish about 10 to 12 minutes. Now to begin with, what we want are 2 basins. We need 1 basin of hot water, which for a diabetic we're going to use kind of warm to hot water, maybe 100 degrees. And then we're going to use the cold, which is going to be around 50 to 60 degrees, hopefully a little bit of ice floating on top. So it's good to have the steam kettle ready to keep the hot nice and hot, and a little bit of ice here to keep the cold nice and cold. So as the ice gets melted, we throw in a little bit more ice. Now we go back and forth. It's usually about 1 minute in the hot and 30 seconds, 10 to 30 seconds in the cold. So we're going to start with the hot, and we keep our feet in there for about a good 2 to 3 minutes till they warm up. And remember, when we're in the heat, what does that do to our blood vessels? It will actually help to dilate them. Then we put them in the cold for 10 to 20 seconds, and it constricts it. We quickly go back and forth, and that creates what we call the peripheral pump. Peripheral meaning away from the body, so it becomes like another heart. It helps to pump the blood back up toward the heart. And that's what we want, because we want to increase the circulation of both the lymph and of the blood supply, especially the blood supply. Now, for diabetic health guests, we want to remember that they may have some neuropathy or actually some numbness in their feet. This is a wonderful treatment, especially for diabetics who have neuropathy. We just need to be careful with it. So we're going to begin putting their feet in the hot water. And remember, if it's a diabetic health guest, it's only going to be about 100 degrees. It can be hotter for the normal person. Maybe you just have cold feet and you want to do a contrast foot bath. That's fine. But for the diabetic, keep it around 100 degrees. And even the cold doesn't have to be as icy cold. Maybe we just want it cool. So we start out with 2 to 3 minutes, warming the feet up nicely, and then start going back and forth. It'll be 1 minute in the hot then, and about 10 to 20 seconds in the cold. Back and forth for about 10 minutes. And remember, from our hydro tips, we always begin with the hot and end with the cold. So when 10 minutes are up, we end with the cold, dry the feet up, and then we're good to go. So remember, we can actually take cold blue feet and turn them into pink, warm feet. And this usually occurs after 2 to 3 treatments, depending on the circulation. Now, if the client has had diabetes for a long period of time, they may have irreversible nerve damage. But as they're doing the hot and cold, they're going to start feeling some pain and maybe some burning in their feet. But we need to encourage them to keep doing the treatment, because this pain and burning turns into actual feeling. All it is, it's those nerves coming alive again. So we just let them know, hey, this is a good sign. Your nerves are coming alive again. Let's continue the treatment each day, and you can do it up to 2 to 3 times a day to increase that circulation. Because as we increase the circulation, we are increasing the healing and the neuropathy. going to move on to the castor oil pack. Now this is something I more recently learned about, and I like to include it in the hydrotherapy as a simple remedy because it is so effective. Now one thing that I found during my research is that it is also called Palma Christi, and that is because the leaves of the tree actually resemble the palm of Christ, and back in the ancient times, people really revered castor oil as a remedy for many diseases. There's been some recent studies, like a study that was done in 2011, I believe, on elderly people, just using it as a castor oil pack to the abdomen to decrease their constipation. And we know that that is very important to get the toxins out. So decreasing constipation in elderly is a very helpful benefit. There have been many other studies that are done. It's used as an antibacterial. It can be used in many different instances. When you do your own research or even look online, you'll find that there are many of these castor oil packs on sale. And along with that is the description of the benefits of castor oil. Even on Amazon, you can pick up a castor oil pack. But as far as our demonstration goes, we're going to show you how to do it right in your own home and how to make your own castor oil pack. Now, castor oil is 90% ricinoleic acid. Now this is the part that gives you the therapy. Now you want to remember that we don't use this in women who are pregnant, and women who are going through their menstruation, or if they are breastfeeding. So you want to be careful not to use the castor oil for clients, for health guests that are in this condition. Another helpful thing about the ricinoleic acid is that it breaks down things. So it helps to break up congestion of the lymphatic and also even of bone. We have found that by using it even for things such as bunions or bone spurs, you can break these things up and the circulation will help to take it away. So I want to tell you a little story of when I was doing a talk in Washington, a young girl and her mother came up to me and said, "My girl is having bunions. We don't know why they're growing, but the doctors want to do surgery to remove them." And removing bunions is a very painful surgery, so she did not want her girl to go through it. So she said, "Is there anything that we can try as a simple remedy to get rid of these bunions?" The only thing that I knew to tell her was the castor oil pack. So I simply described to her how to make her own pack and to the daughter, and to use it 2 or 3 times a day. Well, about a month or 2 later, I saw them at a conference, and the little girl and her mom came up and they're like, "Do you remember us?" And when I asked them just to refresh my memory, I remembered right away who they were. And they had said that they had been doing this treatment now for at least a month and that they were getting results. The bunions were actually decreasing and the girl was so excited. So even such a simple remedy, you never know what it's good for. Use it for what it's supposed to be used for. Even on the label here, it tells you how to make a castor oil pack. In the ancient days, and they've been using this for over 3,000 years, in the ancient days, they actually used it internally. They would drink it for things like constipation, for things like autoimmune diseases. It seemed like any ailment, they would try it. Now this comes from a tree in India, and there's also a name as an African tree that the castor oil comes from. So many different continents have been using castor oil for many, many years. So this would be a wonderful thing to try. Now, let's move on to our demonstration of the hot foot bath and the castor oil pack. Welcome back to Corolla's Kitchen. Not really, but I'll tell you what, I wish I would have a view like this from my kitchen window. So today we're going to do 2 lessons in one, actually 2 therapies in one lesson. We're going to cover the castor oil pack, and later on we're going to change locations for the hot and cold foot bath. So today, the castor oil. Let's take a look at this. Remember, just to recap a little bit, there are 3 major contraindications. Do not use on women who are having their menstruation, if they are pregnant, or if they are breastfeeding. So those are precautions that we want to, actually contraindications that we want to keep in mind when dealing with castor oil. As we said before, people used to take it internally. Did you know that there is an International Castor Oil Association? Well, them and the FDA have deemed this very safe, whether we take it internally or externally. But we're going to be on the very safe side and just do it externally. So today, for the poultice, we have a little cotton cloth here that we've actually just cut off from a cotton t-shirt, an old cotton t-shirt. You can also use an old piece of sheet. You can use a pillowcase, anything that's cotton that will help to absorb this castor oil. So this is a very thick oil. So instead of just popping the top and squeezing it out, it's going to take too long. So I'm just going to open it up, and I'm going to saturate this piece of cloth, and as you can see, it's thick. Do you know they used to even use this for lubrication of equipment, heavy equipment? Castor oil is so thick and it does not freeze. So here we are. We may get a little messy here because we want to make sure to just really saturate this piece of cloth. And today we have a special guest with us, Stephanie. And we are going to pretend that she has an ailment or an inflammation on her elbow. And this is where we're going to apply this kind of sticky, thick, a little bit yucky poultice. So as you can see, it's pretty much drenched right through. And I'm going to wrap it around her elbow, and it kind of just sticks there by itself. I'm going to wipe my fingers on here a little bit, and to keep it nice and moist, I'm just going to simply take some saran wrap and wrap it up, and also to keep her from messing up anything else. So I'm going to take this saran wrap and I'm going to wrap it, and if you don't mind holding that there for me, thank you. Always nice to have an assistant. So I'm going to wrap that there, and then I can take something else if I wanted to, if it's not so hot. You can take either a sock and wrap it around like a wool sock. You can take a piece of cloth or piece of towel, or another piece of dry cotton that you've cut off of either a shirt or a pillowcase and wrap that around. Or you can even use an ace bandage, anything to keep it in place. This is so sticky, it's not going anywhere. So we're not going to worry about that here in the islands. Now remember, castor oil is good for any type of inflammation. It draws out toxins. If she were doing a cleanse, we would have Stephanie put it right here over her liver. Soak a piece of cloth, put it over the liver, piece of saran wrap, and then you can ace it or just wrap anything around it. And you can even sleep with this on to help take out those toxins. I also like to use it as part of a weight loss program because it does help to break down things. Remember we talked the other day about the young girl, or earlier in the presentation, about the young girl with the bunions. This is wonderful to help break down bones. If there's bone spurs, this is another great thing to use. So I hope you've learned something new from Corolla's Kitchen, and that you will use these simple remedies to help other people. Thank you for joining us again. We just finished learning a lot about the castor oil pack, that nice simple remedy, and now we're going to do the hot foot bath, which also takes about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or less to do. And like I said, I love those treatments that take only 20 minutes or less to do. Again, this is something that you can do in your own home. And if you have any type of basins, you want a basin where you can actually put the water in and it can come up to just over your ankle or even higher. I've seen some people use buckets. I've seen some people use coolers. Anything where you can put your feet in and it's going to be just above your ankle or just a little bit higher. Now remember, with the hot and cold that we do, it creates that peripheral pump. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that is so important to our circulation, especially since we're not getting the circulation often to our feet. We might have cold feet. We might have neuropathy due to diabetes. These are wonderful treatments for that. So let's begin the demonstration. Here we have water, cold water that we've already gotten out of the waterfall that you hear nearby here. Now we are going to fill the other one with hot water that we have found, or brought along with us. So we have hot water. I'm going to just walk across here quickly, and we're going to fill this one with nice hot water. Now it's important during the treatment that we keep the hot water hot and the cold water cold. So that's why you see here we have this, which we've actually heated up and even boiled, and we're going to put that in the hot to make it even hotter. So that's pretty warm there. We'll put a little bit more in here, and it's going to be nice and hot. And if you notice over there, we have the ice. So the ice is going to help to keep the cold colder. And guess what? Roger's not diabetic. So I'm going to put a little bit of ice in here so that it gets nice and cool for the contrast. Now it will warm up just a little bit because he's going back and forth. Now when we begin, we're going to start with the feet in the hot. Remember, we always start with the hot. So we're going to put the feet in the hot for about 2 to 3 minutes just to let it warm up. So we want his feet to warm up. Sometimes they'll turn a little bit red, and that's okay, either pink or red. That means we're really opening up those blood vessels and getting lots of blood flow in there. And that's our purpose, right? That's the cool thing about hydrotherapy. It is the only mechanism or the only way that we can move blood from one part of the body to the other. You can't take a pill and say, hey, blood, go to my head or go to my feet. No, we can do this simply with hot and cold water. So that's what these treatments are all about, increasing circulation to certain areas of the body to help them heal faster. So when you're a diabetic, not only do you have neuropathy, but you heal very slowly. So if you have a sore that needs to heal faster, this is another wonderful way to do that. If you've had a sprained ankle, doing hot and cold can help you heal faster. If you have a broken ankle, anything with your feet, you can even do it on your arms, back and forth, even under the spigot. Hot water, cold water. So Roger, let's bring your feet into here. And we're going to do this for just 10 seconds. How does that feel?
Nice and cool.
Nice and cool. So now, Roger, let's have you, after 10 seconds now, we're going to go back into the hot for about a minute. And you can even do it for 30 seconds. You can go 30 seconds and 10 seconds, back and forth, back and forth. So let's have you come over here, and we're going to do it for 10 seconds. Do you see how simple this treatment is? You can go simply just back and forth. And here we're using a swivel chair that we actually borrowed. And especially if you have big buckets, it's much easier to swivel back and forth. And if he's not able to swivel himself, I can just do this back and forth like this. So we're going to go to the hot again. And as we go back, hot and cold, we know that it's going to increase that circulation. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll be able to use this simple treatment with somebody that is either your health guest or somebody in your community. So until our next lesson, stay healthy.